What do you really need to get started building in your classroom? So I have been accumulating stuff over the last 3 years that I've been here at Meadowbrook in the Reggio Inspired program. Let's take a look at what we have and what's really, really useful, some of my best investments, because we don't have a big budget, so you got to invest wisely. First thing, I'm just really lucky to have this. This is a student-sized workbench. I don't just have one. There's another one, and note, woodworking vise right there. Love a woodworking vise. Let's get a close-up of that. It's not like some super brand name like a Wilton, but who needs that anyways? I mean, this is really good for kids' work. That is excellent. Also placed appropriately in a corner. Always put your vise, whether it's a machine vise or a woodworking vise, on the corner of your workbench so you can get it at the things you're working on with 2 angles. Okay, now don't judge my desk. This is my desk. This is the other workbench. I just clear it off, and I even can drag it out and put it in the middle. So we got a little drawer in there. Keep my sandpaper in there. Got second woodworking vise. And I do have a third one, but I have to finish mounting it on there. The holes were drilled in correctly, so I'm going to have to drill some of those holes. So let's talk about some of the better tools to have to get building with your kids in class. Now, I have shown in the past, right behind here, this curtain, I've got a collection of wood. Some of the best wood to have is like longer pieces. I'll grab a small piece of this. It's like 1/2 inch by 1 sort of strapping. All right, we got longer pieces of it. And I just keep these on shelves. I've got some PVC pipe. Not as cheap as I'd hope, but it's certainly good enough. What tools are we going to use? Well, I've got rip saws. This is like a kids kit one. It's actually made for kids, but I don't like how the handle's anchored in here. But I have just from an Ace department store, inexpensive. I think this is a crosscut. So I have a crosscut and a rip saw. For those of you who don't know, one's for going kind of with the grain, and the other one's for going across the grain. And having one of each is really useful. And the best idea still is a miter box. So we screw these into the workbench, and I let my workbenches get scuffed up, and I drill holes in them if I have to, and put screws in them, because that's what a workbench is for. It's not meant to be ornamental. So by putting the saw in the slot and having it screwed down there, kids save their fingers. They keep their fingers away from the saw. Now, could you saw without it? Yeah, you absolutely could. Just got to teach the kids to be safe. This is for like grades 3 and up, but I've totally had really good success with the miter box for straight cuts, for easier cutting. Also, good to have some inexpensive bar clamps. All right, so you just crank it, tighten it up. All right, push this button here. Spread the jaws open. There you go. And that is a really inexpensive, mostly kind of plasticky head ones. Those were like $11. That's pretty reasonable. So we got saws, tack hammers, and small nails. Those are really important. Here's something that I'm really cool. I really love. This is, you can still get these hand cranked hobbyist drills. Not too much money. Not too much money. That was like 20 bucks. I think Fiskars makes them. From the dollar store for only about 3 bucks. All like full metal, like all the way through the handles metal. Right? Full tang scissors that have a nut on one side and an Allen screw on the other. I could take these apart and sharpen them. These are really good for cutting cardboard. Really good heavy duty scissors. Love that. Those things just bite through the cardboard. I have a wood rasp. Oh, I want to show you that pride and joy from like, I don't know when, but this is still like a made in the USA Stanley. Gosh, this could have been from like 1980, and the paint on the back is still perfect. Be careful, you got to tell the kids not to open the jaws up too wide. Those little jaws in there that hold the that clamp down on the drill bit, those are held in with some springs, and if you open the retaining nut too big, you could just boing, 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 those parts will jump out all over the place. So just be careful of that. And those are like those hand tools that I teach kids how to use them, and I teach them to use it when they need to use it. Something else that's useful. I waited for the friends and family sale, got the coupon, and at my local Rona got a inexpensive $12 before the coupon, $12.50 maybe, for this pretty good, pretty deep toolbox, mostly plastic, a few metal parts. And what do we got in here? Okay. Some things that you yourself as the teacher can use, but I don't recommend for the kids, power tools. I keep a couple of power tools, I keep them under the lock and key. They're for teacher use only. Alright, that being said, if you want to teach your kids power tools at home, that's your call. A power drill, which also can drive screws, because sometimes a kid may have a project where you have to like drill a whole bunch of holes. The hand crank drill is for when the kids need to drill a few holes. This is for when you need a lot. So this drill was like $45 before tax. Has a little spirit level in it right there, so you know you're driving it straight. The trigger I tried out yesterday has like OK control, so you can like put some bits in there and some driver bits and like drive screws in. Let's put this down over here. What about some bits? Well, I'm only usually driving through wood and PVC pipe. This is a set of titanium bit from Craft Force. Don't recognize the brand, but it is a titanium twist drill bit. So these titanium bits here will go through thin sheet metal flashing. It's a good selection of sizes from very small to pretty large, and it's suitable for my 3/8 drill. Okay, so those bits are being discontinued. I got them for $4.88. Quality, I love it. Next, what about a saw? Well, if you could only have one, what saw are you going to really get the most bang for your buck out of? Like some sort of circular saw? No. Chop saw? Definitely too big. Table saw? Where are you going to keep it? Right? Orbital jigsaw. I've stowed the blade in its blade holder. Again, Skill brand. And for most of us in school, if you're in elementary and you're only doing, you know, a project every like month or something like that, these household kind of brands, they're perfect. You don't need an expensive DeWalt. You don't need an expensive one. If you can get them, great. But I'd rather get new and just consumer grade for my school use, because I'm only going to be using it for a while, and I know people who've had their consumer grade tools for many years, because you take care of them. Right? You take care of your tools, they take care of you. Okay, utility knife. This kind with the not snap off, but the replaceable blade. That's a good idea. I don't like the idea of a blade snapping off. So, especially in the small kids around there, because they could just put too much pressure and ping, piece breaks off. They'd probably be okay. You know, and there's probably people using them in classrooms. I just prefer just replace the whole blade. A little more expensive, but I think totally worth it. What else we got? I got a soldering kit in here, but that's a game for me. I don't let the kids ever use that. Oh yeah, and for the utility blade, I would consider under supervision letting a kid use an X-Acto knife or a blade like this. But again, all tools, like even the hand crank drill, that's done at a station where I'm working at. I'll teach kids how to use like the hammer and nails and the screwdrivers. Oh, I've got a set of screwdrivers to show you. But if you're going to use the utility knife, I've got this metal ruler with a groove, and the idea being that, let's get it over here. Your fingers go into the groove, and the blade goes on the outside of the metal ruler. That's pretty good. Could you do that with a wood ruler? Yeah, could, but I find that the blade would tend to like bite into the wood. Oh, I keep walking into a dark spot here. You keep losing sight of me. So, last but not least, I've got drywall screws, like a box of them, because they are cheap and they will drive. You can drive them into anything, right? And last but not least, made that little rack myself. Rack of screwdrivers. Here's a pro tip for you. We did have this one magnet and I can't find the other one, but I just move it. Oh, that's a strong magnet. We move it from screwdriver to screwdriver because when you put it on a magnet, eventually that screwdriver becomes magnetized, which just makes it easier for kids to hang on to the screws. So I've got some flat Roberts and Phillips screwdrivers, different sizes. That's good for stuff around the school too when you need to tweak or adjust a table leg or a chair leg or something like that, but mostly it's for projects. So that's getting started with tools in the class. Let your imagination run wild, teach your kids about safety, but teach it on demand. Don't be afraid, dive in, use your common sense, and have some fun out there. If you have any interesting stories about projects that you've done or projects that you are doing with building with your kids, please leave them in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.